Us on another Sabbath day, and we just invite your listening ears to just come on, take a seat, have something to drink, something to eat, because we're going to be here for a few days. Just kidding. We're going to give Yahweh's word in short fashion, and I hope that you have been following. And I'm excited today to give just this message because it is a message that is both past, present, and future. So past and future. But we see them working with us today. And my topic is enter through the narrow gate, which is a scripture that we are familiar with. And we know Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 through 14, enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it. Because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. So today, Yeshua, he is the door. He is the door, and we must enter in through the door. Gate is another way, another entrance, or the same as door. So we know that it's saying that this path is narrow that leads to life, but it is the wide road that leads to destruction. I don't think we need a whole lot of explanation for that, but understand this. The Hebrew pathway, the Hebrew life is not the wide path, because you don't find everybody on this road. This is the narrow path, just to make sure we understand. Now, so what is the wide path? Religion. Religion. Well, isn't Hebrew a religion? Hebrew is a lifestyle, which we practice as our religion, yes. But an example of religion would be Christianity. Now, Christianity have many hats. You have your Baptist, holiness, so on, many different venues of Christianity, because it's very much a wide path. So if we are talking about the road to destruction, so Rabbi, are you saying that Christianity is the road to destruction? Well, one of the things that we have to take away from that is that in Christianity, we are taught against the laws of God. And so if we're taught against the laws of God, then what other pathway? Because if you come up through any other way, you are a thief and a robber. And so we will quote that in Christendom, but without the understanding. And so that's why we call that foolish. So in this scenario, you have Matthew chapter 24, which is you're foolish and you're wise. Read through and you'll understand. Chapter 25 talks about the kingdom of heaven is as 10 virgins. 5 are foolish, 5 are wise. So this is why we can narrow it down to a point of reference where you either have the wise or the foolish. It's foolish to say Yahweh's law that says forever is no longer. It's foolish to say we no longer keep the Sabbath. That's a law forever. The world goes into forever through the Sabbath. Every other day of the week catches up to that one day, which is eternity. I'm going to move on past that because I think it's enough explanatory. Okay, I was waiting for it. I think it's explanatory to backing up, thing, sure. When it jumps ahead like that, I pressed it more than once, and my little remote, and it's not responding. I press it again, and it jumps ahead a couple of times, and then I got to back up. Technology is good when it works for you. All right, so we're going to continue as we did on last week with Ezra. But the form and the name that we will use is what is written. And we're coming from the second book of Ezra. And this will be my second application of looking through the eyes of Ezra. Who is Ezra? Ezra was one of the exiles in Babylon, and the point and reference time would be 30 years after the fall of Jerusalem, which was in 586 BC. So 30 years after, they are now in Babylon. Ezra is speaking before the Most High, and as he speaks to Yahweh, he also sends a messenger, which is Uriel. I've had a little bit of a time trying to follow who's talking and making sure that I'm labeling correctly who is talking, not as in Ezra, but Yahweh, and sometimes it switches right in the same verse. It becomes one of the messengers, or Uriel. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and begin to pick up where we left off last week. We're going to jump ahead a little bit. Chapter 3. Ezra, chapter 3, verse 40 through 46. Yahweh is being questioned, and Ezra says, show me. And this is with all respect, as he asks. He's asking about the future. He's asking, may I see if I have found favor? Can I see? So as we go through, verse 40. So he answered me and said, go to a woman with child and ask of her when she hath fulfilled her 9 months, if her womb may keep the birth any longer within her. Then I said, so this is the conversation between Ezra and Yahweh. Then I said, no, master, that can she not. So in other words, this is Old English. So it's going to come from the King James 16:11. Some things I'll go ahead and correct, but some things I'll just read as is. So you'll see me switching back and forth. Then I said, no, master, that can she not. And she said to me, in the grave, the chambers of souls are like the womb of a woman. For like as a woman that travails much, or make haste to escape the necessity of the travail, even so do these places haste to deliver those things that are committed unto them. From the beginning. From the beginning, look, what you desire to see, it shall be showed you. Then answered I and said, if I have found favor in your sight, and if it be possible, and if I be meant, therefore, show me then whether there be more to come than is past, or more past than is to come. What is past, I know, but what is for to come, I know not. So if the language is a little disturbing, I'll explain. What he's asking, and Yahweh is showing him an analogy of the birth of children through a woman. And he's saying, things that are past, you know. And he's asking, and he's saying, those things that are past, I understand or I know, but those things that are yet to come, I do not know. So this is the question that he's asking. And so Yahweh is kind of taking him from the beginning to help him understand from Adam to the present time in the Babylonian exile community. And so what he's now saying, he says, go to a woman with child and ask when she has fulfilled her 9 months. She has done the 9 months. So he's saying, now you ask. Now this question came up even prior to this. So I'm just kind of putting together enough information to make sure that we can cross and keep everything together and know what the previous conversations are. So this is not the first time this request comes up, nor the first time he says, go talk to a woman. So this is where we are. This is where I'm picking it up. And ask her, when she has fulfilled the 9 months, does her body say, hold on to the child?
No, it says let it rip.
But as the body is created, the birth is now has its appointed time. So he takes that and he says, now, the earth receives our bodies. And as the earth receives our bodies, we live through and we eat and the whole cycle of life, we die and we are placed into the earth. And he says, the earth is a chamber. And that chamber has a time limit, just as the woman's body. So when the time comes, that chamber is ready to kick you out. In other words, when the body goes to sleep and it is in the earth, it only has a certain amount of time. A lot of people ask the question, well, is death the end of existence? Is that when we just don't no longer exist? No. You were created and you live forever. But the body is only a temporary housing for the spirit man that want to get back to the place where we were created. But in order to do that, we have to go through the cycle of life. Now, as we listen to Yahweh and Ezra, now, note that Ezra is in a bad place. He's in Babylon. He's in captivity. He's not free. So he's going through a major period of life where for him, it can be torture one day and it can be pleasantry the next. You never know because you don't own yourself at this point. Correct. So I'm switching to the conversation now to Ezra and Uriel. So I skipped through the rest of chapter 3, and we are further along into chapter 4, verse 46 through 56, hoping to tie everything together. So distance of time is what we're going to look at and now begin to piece together. The woman's body, her womb, bearing birth. And when she gives birth, she goes through great pain. And that is a part of the sin nature and the punishment for sin. And Yahweh has a lot to say about that. So keep your keep your ears open because this woman, she's going to get a lot of explanation here. And so in Ezra, it looks like she is a major part of the conversation. So wherever I go, don't forget, this is all connected. Verse 46, and he said to me, ask the womb of a woman and say unto her, if you bring forth children, why does you it not together? Okay, why you don't do it all together? I'm just have to skip through because my brain is not scrambling all together real quick. But one after another, pray her, therefore, to bring forth 10 children at once. And I said, she cannot. So this is the message. Now remember, Yahweh and Ezra spoke. Now he sends one of the messengers, Uriel, because he requested, Yahweh, can you send Uriel, the one who spoke to me the first time, can you send him back? And I said, she cannot, but must do it by distance of time. Distance of time. What distance of time? The children, not at once, but distance of time. In their times, for like as a young child may not bring forth the things that belong to the aged, even so have I disposed the world which I created. So this way, this is now Yahweh. This is why I said I had to really keep up with who's talking. So when it says the world which I created, now that signifies to me, now Yahweh is talking. And I asked and said, seeing you have now given me the way, I will proceed to speak before you. For our mother, of whom you have told me that she is young, draws near unto age. He answered me and said, ask a woman that bear children, and she shall tell you. Say to her, wherefore are unto they whom you have now brought forth like those were before, but less of stature. And she shall answer you, that they be born in the strength of youth are of one fashion. And they that are born in the time of age, when the womb fails, are otherwise. Consider you therefore also how that ye are less of stature than those that were before you. So are they that come after you less than you, as the creatures which now begin to be old, and have passed over the strength of youth. Then said I, Master, I beseech you, if I have found favor in your sight, show your servant by whom you visit your creature. So, right here, what are we dealing with? Yahweh is saying, when she is in her youth and having children, she's strong, and she has stronger children. But as she ages, going near the time of no longer bearing children, those children are less in strength than the beginning. He's going to compare this. And so as this is the young me versus the older me, so to speak, as in woman. The young me versus the older me. So it's not a young woman versus another woman. No, this is the same woman. She has now aged, and she's getting near the end of childbirthing experience. The beginning children will come with full strength. And as she gets older, those children, and we see it because we see children who are at the end of that mother's stage have sometimes more difficulty in their bodily functions, whether it's some type of ailment, some type of disease, some type of something that is going on, but it is present, and this is what Yahweh is talking about. Continuing. Now we're going to jump to chapter 6, verse 1 through 10. We're going to look at how, from the very beginning, Yahweh, he speaks to us, and he's telling us from the very beginning, the end. And I want you to pay particular attention as we go through verse 1 through 10, the heel and the hand. And he said unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the wind blew, before it thundered and lightning, or ever the foundations of paradise was laid, before the fair flowers were seen, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels or messengers were gathered together, or ever the heights or the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys of Zion were hot, and where the present years were sought out, or ever the inventions of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that have gathered faith for a treasure, then did I consider these things. And they were made through me alone, and through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that follows? And he said to me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born to him, Jacob's hand held the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. The hand of the man is between the heel and the hand. Other questions, Esdras, ask thou not. So Yahweh is having a very serious conversation. Keep in mind, Esdras is one that's going to lead them back in the second wave, as we talked about last week. He's going to be he is the priest at this time and a prophet. And Yahweh is having a very serious talk with him. So from the beginning, Yahweh is saying before the earth was made, and he goes and makes sure that we understand before the stars was even hung in the sky, before the mountains were created, before the messengers were created, before all of these things. He's saying, I'm taking you all the way back to the beginning, just me. Then I considered these things. So he's telling us, I thought everything through before I created these things. So therefore, it didn't take me no time. Way back, I remember a midrash some years back, probably closer to 20, 25 years back, somewhere along those areas. I remember we was midrashing through and talking about, how old is the earth and how long did Yahweh take to create each day. And so I see this connecting to that, showing that if he thought it through already, when he started making them, because the messengers were created before we were created.
Right.
Heaven was created before the earth was created. So he went all the way back and he just took his time and he said, before this, before this, before this, and before this. So he's taking us all the way back. He said, I considered all of these things. So when I spoke it, it happened. When I spoke the next thing, it happened. The first thing, the second thing, third thing. Because he takes Ezra through all of these things. Ezra is repeating it. Ezra is going. So that was the rest of chapter 3 that I kind of skipped through, or chapter 4 that I skipped through. And I'm like, this got to be right, because he's talking in his own way. It's not how we read it in King James or the Bible, but word for word, in other words. But he had creation of every day. The day that light was created, the day that water, the day where air, everything, and all of that is here. So I'm like, okay, I got to keep on going, because Ezra is, he's on it. He's on it. So Yahweh says, all were made through me alone. Now, I know 1 John says all things were made by his hand. And it's talking about Yeshua. Right. So for me, this is just another piece of evidence that Yahweh and Yeshua are echad, one. There is no separation, only by the flesh that had to also die. And I'm not going to go into the reason why, because we've done that many weeks. So, by me also they shall be ended. So I know that we're looking for Yeshua to come and reign as king over the nations and over the earth, and an end to all things shall come. And the beginning reign, as Yeshua is seated on his throne. But stay with me, because he is really, this is phenomenal. I had a hard time sleeping last night thinking through this. And that's what happens to me. I get on these deep messages and I can't sleep. I'm in and out. And in my mind, I'm still going through this. And first thing, and I had to talk myself out of getting up and going back through it again, because I done been through it. I've been working on this since last Shabbat. And so, how much more can I get? As much as Yahweh will give me. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the time? What shall be the end of the times? What should separate? Because remember, we have the beginning of one and the end of the other. So the beginning is the end now. And the end is now the beginning. So Yahweh gave me revelation, and I'll jump right back in 2010. And I was speaking at the eulogy. Y'all already know this story, but for those who are listening by airway, I had to do a eulogy for a senator's mother, whom she had already set me up and said, I'm coming from New York down to Winston-Salem. Rabbi, you will do my eulogy. You know what to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. But we did it. We went through. They gave us the church and gave us all, we gave them all instructions, and they followed it. So we had a house full of senators and political heads, ambassadors out of Africa and different places. And now they got to sit and listen to me. And so I said to the governor of North Carolina, I need for you to give President Obama, this was 2010, a message. Now, whether he gave the message or not, I don't know. All I was called to do is say it. And it was right there at that moment that the Spirit moved on me to say exactly what I said. And I said to the governor, I said, you need to take this message that the end of the kingdom of man is coming, and the beginning of the kingdom of Yahweh is beginning. And so I see that right here. And so as I read through, I'm like, Father Yahweh, your way be done. And the beginning of it that follows, and he said to me, from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Esau were born of him. Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. So this is an explanation why Jacob's hand was on the heel of Esau. So last week we saw Esau's name thrown in there. And in that day, I'm going to give you Esau and Jeremy, which I think is Jeremiah. So what is that representing? I believe one, Esau represents the end of one, which is the kingdom of man. This is where I get it from. And the beginning of the other, which is Jeremiah, prophets, will be fulfilled. All right, because Jeremiah talks about the kingdom being gathered. All right, not only he, but many of them. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of what is to follow. So Yahweh is telling Esdras, he says, okay, be careful. At the end, he says, other questions, Esdras, ask thou not. So he stopped him, because Esdras, he was on a roll. He was asking things we want to know. And so he said, don't ask what you're getting ready to ask. Don't go any further right now. But he was like Moshe. Did he listen? So we're gonna continue. Esdras chapter 6, verse 11 through 20. They shall all know. And I'm pulling this from Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 14, which says, in that day, they shall all know me. No man shall ask his brother, know Yahweh, for they shall all know me. And that's actually another verse, but this is saying the same thing. They shall all know me. And Yahweh is serious about this, because when I'm getting ready to share, either this one or what is to come, there's some very strong words that is getting ready to be heard. All right, let's continue. Verse 11. Answered then and said, so Ezra is now going to ask another question. O master that bearest rule, you are the judge, basically. If I have found favor in your sight, this is what I said. He's like Moshe. If I found favor in your sight, ask you, show your servant the end of your signs, whereof you showed me part the last night. So last night, you showed me some parts, but you didn't go. You stopped me. So he's going back. You know, he's like a dog with a bone. I got to go back to the bone. He answered and said unto me, stand up upon your feet and hear a mighty sounding voice. And it shall be as it were a great motion, but the place where you stand shall not be moved. And therefore, when it speaks, be not afraid. For the word is of the end, and the foundation of the earth is understood and wide. Because the speech of these things tremble and is moved, for it knows that the end of these things must be changed. And it happened that when I had heard it, I stood up upon my feet and hearkened or heard, and behold, there was a voice that spake, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters. And it said, behold, the day comes. Behold, the day comes. Turn that off and then back on. The day comes that I will begin to draw near and to visit that which dwells upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them. What they will be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness. And when the afflictions or inflictions of Zion shall be fulfilled, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then I show these signs. The books shall be opened before the firmament, the air, or the heavens, and they shall see all together. So Yahweh is going to open up the books, and we're going to understand. Now, this is going to take place at a certain gathering. This is Israel. Israel will be gathered during a certain time, and Yahweh is teaching. But if you notice, this points towards Yeshua, a voice, a sound of many waters. So we've seen that verbiage before. And so notice where he says, oh, okay, I'm going to show you what you're asking for. He says, well, stand up on your feet, because what you're getting ready to hear is going to be a mighty sound, a mighty voice. And don't be afraid, for the word is not for now. Because remember, he's asking them, show me. Show me. But he said, okay, you really want to see? Because I already told you. I said, Edris, ask no further. But he did. He's asking more. He said, but if I've now found favor, answer me this one more thing. He says, okay, now this is Edris describing what he's hearing, or what he heard. Because the speech of these things tremble the earth, and it moves. And it knows that the end of these things must be changed. And it happened that when I had heard it, I stood upon my feet and heard, and behold, there was a voice that spoke, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters. If you ever been to the ocean and listened to those waves come crashing in, multiply that by many. So he's saying, and it sounds like he was still sitting when the voice began to speak, because he already said, stand up on your feet. And the voice began to, he said, I was up on my feet. And he said, don't be afraid, because this is for the end, not for now. But the earth is going to tremble, because the earth knows that this is not the time. But when he hears that voice, it begins to tremble at the voice. And when it begins to tremble, you're going to think that the earth moved under you, but you're still in the same place. Yeah. So he says, just stand. Just stand. Because you asked. And so, this is Yeshua's entrance. This is Yeshua's entrance. And I'll go further to prove this, because I'm going to go into the next verses. But keep this in mind, because when the voice began to speak, Ezra didn't have time to stand under his own power. It was the earth that began to move and shook him till he was standing on his feet. And the instructions were, stand there. He says, because the earth is not moving anywhere. It's only responding to what it hears. And what it heard, it knows that I'm not ready. The earth haven't gone to the change that it's supposed to, because there's supposed to be a destruction that takes place with that. And so let's go a little further. So I recognize this as the seventh trumpet, the seventh bowl, the seventh seal, and I compared it to a nuclear holocaust. Yeshua's interest. Let's read through. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The women with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouse shall suddenly be found empty, and a trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man hear, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one another like enemies. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still. And in 3 hours they shall not run. Whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told you, shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world.
Hallelujah.
So this is Yeshua.
Yes.
And I'm going to give you a scripture that we've talked about a lot, so I didn't put it in this. When the seventh trumpet is blown, 7,000 people will die at once in Jerusalem. Instantly. They will die. It will be 7 sounds. And I pretty much just average every time he blows, 1,000 will die. He blows again, another 1,000. And the number that has to die at the seventh sound, it says 7,000 will die in that great city. Now, I have interpreted that as Jerusalem. Why? Because now the king is coming to sit on his throne, and the earth is responding. So, whoever remained from these, so what takes place during this time, and this is not just in Jerusalem, but around the world, wherever destruction takes place, who lives and escape, they will see my salvation and the end of the world. Now, how many people will die during that time? As I've talked about it many times, 1/3. This is Revelation. 1/3. 1/3 of the heavens, 1/3 of the earth, 1/3, and it will complete its number. And just like the woman, she didn't have all 10 children at once, but it was in the course of time. So we have the seals that we've already begun to talk about that have started since the time of Yeshua. The 4 horsemen who have been riding since that time, taking away peace from the earth. Then we have the trumpets that also will intervene. And we have the 7 trumpets, like the 7 seals. And then we have the 7 bowls. And the 7th bowl is the end. So I say this would be both the 7th trumpet and the 7th bowl. Definitely the 7th bowl, because it will be the greatest earthquake known to humanity. So this is how I track things. Where are we now? I know that we're in the fifth seal. And I do believe the fifth trumpet. I'm not so sure about the fifth bowl, but those two, I see evidence of them. Well, when is the end of that? The end of it is with a large earthquake. The first woe. Remember the three woes? The first earthquake, the second woe, the second earthquake. It will be even bigger. And the third and final earthquake, which will be the biggest earthquake ever known to mankind. So this is the sudden entrance of Yahweh. And when I was first looking at this, I was trying to figure, is this Israel now being gathered? Is this? No. Because this is how we know. It says, women will bring forth untimely children. What does he mean by untimely? Then he gave us an example of 3 months to 4 months old. So this is definitely premature because it's supposed to be a 9-month process. This is going to be so devastating that the fear of what just happened will cause women to give birth. Now, can you imagine that all around the earth? Women who are pregnant because of what just happened, the sound that just was heard, the babies are now born, and it says, but they will live and they will grow. So this tells me this is those who are on the outside of the door. Remember, we have to enter in through what? The gate or the door. And so this is why Israel is in a place of safety, but the mankind is not. And so remember when he told Ezra, he said, what is happening right now, don't be afraid. Don't go nowhere. Stand still. Because you asked. And before he could even stand up under his own power, the voice came and stood him up. He said, now the earth under you is responding, but it knows it's not for now and is confused because it's responding to what it's hearing. So the women begin to drop the children, give birth right on the spot. So can you imagine it? Well, we've seen this before. Where did we see this before? Remember when, there's a couple examples, when they were in the king, Abimelech. Remember when it was with Abimelech and the women could not have children? And then another time, Moshe, and they couldn't have children. So Yahweh, when he's ready to effect change, everything on earth will know. So this is not a good thing, because it says the earth that has been sown will appear unsown. The storehouses will suddenly be empty. And I thought about, well, is this a famine? No, this is a reaction to what took place on the earth. All right, so, and then when it gets down, it says, those who survive, it says, for 3 hours, the water is going to be at standstill. So everything is reacting to Yeshua's entrance. And then it says, those who survive will see my salvation at the end of your world. Esau and Jacob, the hill. The end of one, the beginning of the other. And the men that are received shall see it, who have not tasted death from their birth, and the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed. So here comes the change in people. Why? Because fear is the beginning of wisdom, right?
Yes.
So Yahweh has to bring back the fear. That's the thing that mankind has lost, right? So he's bringing back the fear. So people will now get a new heart to follow him and turn into another meaning. For evil shall be poured out and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And when he talked with me, behold, I looked by little and little upon him. Little by little would be the phrase we have. On him, whom, and this is like Moshe, he couldn't look right at the burning bush, right? I looked by little and little upon him before whom I stood. And these words said he unto me, I am come to show you the time of the night to come. So that's why I said this is Yeshua, and Yeshua is the I am. We've heard this conversation before. I've reached the end. So as we kind of put everything together, let's make sure. I want to go back. The children of a year old shall begin to speak. Well, some children may begin to speak at one. I don't really, 2 years old is when they really begin to speak well, but they begin to speak. But that's not what he's talking about, because we have a 2-year-old here. And so he's saying some words, but it's not with the clarity of a grown person. Only mom and dad and Cyril, they can decipher. We have to get them to interpret. But what he's saying is the inhabitants of the earth, there's going to take a change. Now, this is not all in one day when you see everything, but over time, you will witness that, whoa, these babies, these children. So even the heart of people will now come to a point. So this is why I said, at this time, we will no longer need to say know Yahweh, for they all will know him, because they've been taught through the fear. He has brought back the fear, and Yahweh, his people, will be used during this time when we're back in general population. Can we give Yahweh a praise? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. This is the end.